Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
Welcome to Ordinary to Badass, episode number 207. In this episode, you're going to hear from Jackie Simmons. Jackie is a resilience master trainer. She helps you to reduce anxiety, stress, depression, and helps you to improve performance, productivity, and optimism. So in this episode, Jackie and I talk about suicide prevention, the 4 questions to ask your child or family member to see if they're suicidal and to get them to talk to you about it, the law of attraction and suicide, how they relate, and the elephant in your room. So stay tuned because I know that you're going to love this episode. But before we get to the episode, I want to have a little talk. Keep you in the loop with what's going around or what's going on with Ordinary to Badass. So as you know, From Broke to Badass, my new book has come out. I would love for you to grab a copy. There are bonuses, so make sure you grab your copy if you want to get out of debt and set yourself up for financial freedom once and for all. Actually, get out of debt and stay out of debt and set yourself up for financial freedom. So grab your copy of From Broke to Badass today. And also, if you love this podcast, I would be so honored if you'd share it with a friend. Usually on your podcast app, there's 3 little dots at the top of the episode. And if you click share, it should give you a link to share the episode, or head on over to iTunes and leave a rating and review. I love hearing from you. I love knowing how this show is impacting you. And that way, if you're leaving a rating and review, then other badasses just like you can find the show. Then, of course, screenshot it and send it to me on Instagram, put it in your IG stories, and tag me at Ordinary to Badass. All right, let's get to the episode. Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or badass, I am so glad you're here. Today's guest is Jackie Simmons. Jackie, thank you so much for being here. Excited to have you on the show.
I'm excited to be here. Oh my goodness. Thank you.
So before we go any further, I've got to ask you, do you consider yourself ordinary or badass?
Ooh. Okay. I spent most of my life trying to be ordinary. I spent most of my life trying to fit in. I'm an Army brat. And I was always the new kid in school, often coming in the middle of the school year. And I never fit in, and I didn't know why, because I sure as heck tried. Mm-hmm. So I'd have to say that understanding that I'm not supposed to fit in, I am supposed to be uniquely me. Now I am a badass at being me.
Yes. I love that. So what was the changing point for you? Was it one specific situation? Was it a series of things over time?
Okay. I believe there are 2 ways of changing. One is evolutionary, where there's a little bit of things and a little bit of things and a little bit of things. The way evolution works to change the plant or a person. I'm not that. The other side of that is a revolutionary changer, where it looks like nothing's happening, pop. And all of a sudden I'm over here and people are going, wait a minute, I thought you were doing that. I'm like, well, yeah, but I used to do that. Now I do this. Yeah. So I'm one of those. And for me, it was that fast. It actually happened on August the 3rd, 2019. And it wasn't something I did. On August the 3rd, 2019, my middle daughter, Stephanie, stood up and gave a talk. It's a 7-minute message that matters. And I train speakers to do this. I train people to sell in 7 minutes or less. So this is what I used to do. And so she had taken the course. She was there at the event. Oh my God, everything worked. Anybody who's ever hosted an event, I mean, the PowerPoints worked, the videographer was there, the microphones worked, the audience took their seats. I'm super proud of my daughter, Stephanie. You know, she was in that nervous, excited state you get into before you give a talk. She looked amazing. You know, dark blouse, flowery skirt, her hair pulled back in combs. I'm super proud of her. She was first up on the speakers roster, and as the lights dimmed, I introduced her and welcomed her to the front of the stage. Yeah, everyone help me welcome Stephanie Ashton. She confidently walked up to the front of the room and shook my hand and said, 3,000 teenagers will attempt to take their own lives today, just in the US. In the back of the room, I was stunned twice. First, because I had no idea the number was that high. And second, because I had no idea suicide was her topic. You know, Marie, I had lived through her multiple suicide attempts through her teenage years, but we'd never talked about them. I had sold myself on the idea that as long as she was getting professional help, we didn't need to talk about it. The truth was, I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to know what could cause my daughter so much mental and emotional pain that she would think dying was better than living. And so I stayed silent. I sold myself on the idea that if I talked about it, I would put the idea of suicide back in her head. What happened after that day? Oh my God. Stephanie and I started working together. Who knew that was possible? Along with her sisters, we founded the Teen Suicide Prevention Society. We started teaching people how to have what we call the talk that saves lives. We stumbled upon something so simple and obvious that professionals, I think, have missed it. It's the fact that prevention doesn't mean waiting for signs. Prevention doesn't mean at risk anybody. Prevention means having the talk that stops suicidal thinking from getting stuck inside someone's head before you think they need it. So it was on that day in August of 2019, before COVID, that my purpose tapped me on my shoulder, and I went from being ordinary. Actually, I didn't do it on that day. Okay, I'm going to be really truthful. On that day, I was so shocked as Stephanie gave her talk, as she started talking about her multiple suicide attempts. She started talking about the fact that outside of professional help, she'd never really talked about it, not even with me. We'd had the other talks, you know, the one about sex, and we had the talk about drugs, we had to talk about alcohol. Oh my God, if any parent out there. Then she went to college on a dry campus, and I found out later that meant that the kegs were hidden in the showers of the girls' dorm. We had that talk about alcohol more than once, but we didn't talk about suicide. And on August 3rd, 2019, Stephanie stood in the front of this room and shared that she still struggled with suicidal thoughts. And in the back of the room, I went from pale, because I went pale at the topic of suicide. I went from pale to bone cold as I realized the struggles that she had had to face alone because I didn't have the courage to talk about it. Because I didn't have the courage to talk about it. My 30 years of stress management training is the only thing that kept me from crawling into a corner of that room and just bawling my eyes out. But I wasn't a badass that day. And I wasn't a badass for months afterwards. We worked together. We published a book. We started creating a training program to help people be advocates for living. We started putting together the guide for the talk that saves lives. I got asked to take a TEDx stage, but only if I was willing to talk about how to stop teen suicide. I wasn't a badass. My TEDx coach, God bless Roger Killen, he's like, you have to tell the story. And I'm like, I did. We were a normal, stable American family. And then my daughter tried to kill herself. That's the story. And he's like, no, no, no. That's one sentence. You have to tell the story of the day. I'm like, there was nothing unusual about the day until there was nothing usual about my life. And Roger then said, can you ask your daughter? Well, that was another moment where I could feel the blood run out of my face. So I called my daughter, Stephanie, and I'm like, hey, Stephanie, I'm taking the TEDx stage. You know that this is about the multiple suicide attempts, and they want me to talk about the day you first attempted. And Stephanie, I don't remember. Stephanie laughed hysterically. And when she calmed herself down, she said, Mom, it was the shopping. It was the pain of not fitting into any clothes that was proof to me that I didn't fit in anywhere. And then I remembered. And I realized that if I wasn't willing to tell the story of what it was like at the end of that day of shopping, when I heard her say, Mom, I think I need help. And I looked and blood was dripping down her arm off her fingers onto the wood floor. If I wasn't willing to tell that story, then parents, 6,000 a day would be continued to be blindsided by it like I had been. And so would the grandparents and the brothers and the sisters and the aunts and the uncles and the classmates and the teachers and neighbors. And when I started doing the math, because I was a math major at one time, I realized that I was looking at hundreds of thousands of people that were being impacted by suicide attempts every day that I stayed silent. That's when I became a badass.
Yes, I love it. Because you stepped into it. You could have still chose to ignore it or to try to put your head in the sand about it. Yes, she said it there, but then you don't have to talk about it or bring it up in anywhere else and just act like it didn't happen, because plenty of people do that. So I think even if you didn't acknowledge it in the moment, that you still were a badass because you accepted her and met her where she was.
What's happened since then? I mean, this is not all that long ago, guys. I stood on a TEDx stage barely a year ago, and my video wasn't released until May. So May of 2021, TEDx, in their infinite wisdom, bless them, decided to release the video of that talk. I snuck it in. Marie, embedded in my TEDx talk is the guide to stop suicidal thinking from getting stuck in someone's head. I snuck that whole talk that saves lives into that, and 90,000 people have been impacted by it so far. I'm like, yes, it's great magic.
Yes.
Because when people go and watch it, they don't know that their brain is about to be rewired. Because I didn't tell them that in the notes. Sorry.
Yeah. So I want to get into how our brain can be rewired, or how we can start to rewire our brain, our thoughts. But before we do, I would like to hear a little bit more about you, where you come from, how you started you already just talked about how you started the foundation, but I want to hear more about you.
Oh, I'm just Jackie. In 1984, I was a single mom with 3 kids. They were 5, 3, and 1. And I went to work. And at the end of the month, I could pay daycare, or I could pay rent. I couldn't pay both. And I got really blessed. One of my friends said, Jackie, why don't you create a business in your home? I do family daycare. Why don't you become a licensed family daycare provider? Well, I fast tracked through that certification program. And now here I've got a business. I know nothing about business. Me and my high school education, I mean, yes, I had been a junior achiever, which is a great program that teaches about stock and how corporations run, but it wasn't geared towards entrepreneurialism. I knew nothing, except I had 3 daughters that I needed to keep a roof over their heads. So when I walked them to the bus stop in the morning, so my oldest daughter could go to kindergarten, that's Katie, who's now my tech guru, God bless her. I just told every other parent at the bus stop, hey, I'm a registered family daycare provider. I've got openings for these age groups. And if you know anybody who's looking, let me know. I didn't know that was called networking. I mean, I literally knew nothing about business. That business made it possible for me to create some stability for my kids. But I had a belief system that says I couldn't do it on my own. And that's nothing more than a limiting belief. But I didn't know about limiting beliefs. I didn't have this knowledge that I have now back then. So I did what you do. I didn't expect to remarry, but I remarried. And what happened after that was an emotional roller coaster for both me and my kids and my husband. I mean, I had warned him, if you marry me, you will never be bored. Other words might apply, but you will never be bored. I knew that much about myself. That roller coaster lasted 17 years until my daughters were all grown. We had survived the multiple suicide attempts of my middle daughter. We had survived the ups and downs of her sisters. And the 3rd or 4th time he asked me for a divorce, I said yes. And so here I was single again. I was not a badass. I was publicly networking because I had closed the daycare and now I was out doing Eastern healing arts and these other things I'd learned along the way. So publicly, I was fine. Personally, I was kind of lost. And I stayed lost for a long time. And I worked behind the scenes. I helped build other people's businesses, but I wasn't willing to be seen. I wasn't willing to be upfront. I was teaching people how to speak, but I wasn't standing up and speaking very much. Only to tell people that I could teach them how to speak. And then everything changed. And it started August 3rd, 2019. It got accelerated. But in that interim, I just got more certifications. I don't know if anybody else has ever chased certifications, but there's a reason why I call myself a multi-certified expert. I am certified in 2 different energetic healing arts. I am also a mediator by training. I can do court-ordered mediation in the transformative style. The only conversation I'm interested in mediating now is the one that's happening behind your eyes and between your ears. That's where I want to play. The journey took me on a lot of different directions. And I ended up here talking to you.
So powerful. I love your story. And not just like you went through hardship, but then you figured out a way that you could apply it to your life and then make a difference. So I love that.
Oh, thank you.
You talked about what you are worried about now, or how you focus on like what's between your ears. Can you talk about that? Why is that important? And how does that relate to suicide?
Marie, do you know why people take their own lives?
Why?
Because in that moment, They believe it's the best idea at the time. That's why. It's actually why we do anything in our lives. We only take action because we believe it's the best idea at the time. And once I realized that suicide was no different than ordering ice cream, especially when you're on a diet, I realized that people misunderstand what's happening inside people's brains. And the problem is not suicidal thinking. Suicidal thinking is normal. Freud, back in the day, the father of psychoanalysis, Freud said suicidal thoughts are normal. They're part of our natural negative bias, our normal worst case scenario, problem-solving mechanism of our brain. Once I understood that, then I got this idea of how do we change the conversation that's happening inside our heads so that we don't get stuck to a place where suicide seems the best idea. But that's the conscious mind. And that's not where the game of life is played. You ask me, why do I mediate the conversation behind your eyes and between your ears? Is because there are 3 conversations happening behind your eyes and between your ears. The first one is the one with words. This is the conversation that you're aware of with your conscious mind. The second conversation that's happening is the observer. This is that, overarching, wise, intuitive, higher self that is just observing. And the third conversation is your subconscious mind. Here's what we've learned about your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is elegantly designed to bring about what you think about. If you have a suicidal thought and it sticks and you find yourself thinking about it again, we live in a society that says, talk about it. And what we've learned through the Teen Suicide Prevention Society is the whole laundry list of why people don't talk about it. And there are really good reasons on this list. We don't talk about it because we don't want to be a burden on our family. We don't talk about it because we don't want to be seen as sick. We don't talk about it because we don't want to have to go see somebody. We don't talk about it because. And this is not the Wizard of Oz, guys. This is what's happening in your families. What I've learned, and thanks to the Center for Disease Control and their wonderful ability to pull together statistics, over 25% of American young adults are struggling with suicidal thoughts. And here's what I know. You can't tell by looking. I actually created that website. You can't tell by looking. I put an assessment there so you could figure out if your family was at risk for suicide. And what I finally decided is I'm done with that. Here's the truth. Yes, your family is at risk. We're all at risk. It's called the suicide war with 2 A's, WAAR. We're all at risk. Now that that's out of the way, let's have the talk that stops suicidal thinking from getting stuck inside someone's head. That's where we ended up landing. Totally upstream, pure prevention, totally proactive.
So how do we start having those conversations?
Ooh. Well, there's a simple invitation, and it's on our website. But I'll tell you what, instead of talking about it, Marie, would it be okay? Would you role play with me and we'll just demonstrate it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right. So here's the invitation. And anybody can do this, guys. Hey, Marie, I decided to be part of the mission to make teen suicide a thing of the past. They gave me a guide. I need to practice. Would you be willing to help me practice my guide?
Sure.
Awesome. It'll only take a few minutes. Are you ready?
Yep.
Cool. It's only 4 questions. Question 1. Marie, have you heard about the rise in teen suicides?
Yes.
Thank you. Marie, question 2. Do you have a story? Do you have a friend who's tried or died?
Yes.
Thank you. Question 3. Marie, have you ever thought of leaving that way?
No.
Thank you. Question 4. Marie, why stay? What are your reasons for staying?
My family, my life, just the everyday stuff. I don't know.
Tell me more.
Well, I'm on a mission to help women become badasses, or to recognize the badassery that's already inside of them. And so I know it took me a long time, so I want to help them do that. But then also, you know what? I'm one of 6 kids, and I love my family, and I love just seeing the transition, the older we get, and kind of all the things that we've gone through, and family is like a staple to me.
Thank you. So any parent listening to this, anybody who wants to suicide proof their friends of any age, this is where you probe and you just keep asking. And if you get stuck or they get stuck, you simply say, hey, Marie, what's so good about your life that you want more of it? So we have a way to get the conversation unstuck. And for any parent who's wondering, but I can't have this talk because what if they tell me that they have thoughts of leaving? Don't worry, we got you covered. Here's how it works. If you're talking to someone you care about, and question 3, they have thoughts of leaving, and question 4, they have 0 reasons for staying, 0. If that happens, stay with them and call 911. Yeah, they might hate you for it. And you might save their life. But here's what's interesting, Marie. We've been at this for a couple of years. We've had thousands of conversations. People have been using this guide around the world. And make a guess, out of these thousands of conversations, what percentage of people have thoughts of leaving and 0 reasons for staying?
I have no idea. 60%.
0. The number is 0. And here's why. People who are struggling with depression, people who are struggling with suicidal thinking are really good at one thing: masking. They're really good at masking. So when we get to question 4 and you ask them, what are your reasons for staying? They're going to lie. And here's what's brilliant about that. When they say anything to that question, reasons for staying, their subconscious mind is hearing them have reasons for staying. And their subconscious mind is building out a new neural network and a new file folder labeled reasons for staying. What happens in the brain when you have this talk with someone is that the minute they start talking about their reasons for staying, their mind is listening, their subconscious mind, and they start building this out, this buffer between them and an edge that they may not have even known they were near. And it happens the same even if people lie. This is why we say, you can't do this wrong. If you follow the guide, you're going to start suicide proofing the people you care about the most. And we just did something to your audience that I just want to own fully, because you did not know this was going to happen. Because of something in the brain that we now know exists called mirror neurons. Marie, when you walked through these 4 questions and you started talking about your reasons for staying, everybody listening to us, their brains started paralleling that walk, and their brains started building out their own file folder of reasons for staying. So everybody listening, congratulations. You just got a little bit of suicide proofing.
No, I mean, it's interesting, like the things that we say to ourselves, like even like you said, even if it's not true yet, or if it doesn't feel true, you can start saying it and start to believe it.
People use this with positive affirmations all the time. And what's not talked about is what really comes about, which is the fact that we have a natural negative bias of the brain. And so we are more used to hearing ourselves say things that are not so nice about ourselves. And we accept them as truth because we're so used to hearing them echo in our head. We call it the negative echo chamber. So this conversation where you end up with what's so good about my life that I want more of it breaks open the negative echo chamber in a way that nothing else does. If I start the conversation with someone, especially a teenager, if you try to shortcut this process and you start the conversation with, hey, what's so good about your life? You want more of it? Crickets. Because of that natural negative bias, you're not going to get an answer. That's why this 4 questions that drive coaches crazy. So anybody who is trained as a coach, I feel your pain, because yes, it starts with 3 closed-ended questions in a row. And then it gets to an open-ended question.
The power of an open-ended question.
That's right. When you put it in the right place.
True. Good point.
So that's what this is designed for. It's designed to put the right question in the right place at the right time. And you'll notice, I'm not suggesting parents go up to their kids and say, hey, we need to have the talk. Because trust me, Stephanie outed me in her 7-minute talk. She's like, Mom and I had the talk about sex, and Mom and I had the talk about drugs. Mom and I had the talk about, she was just outing me all over the place. But it seemed like a good idea. Marie, I did a public service announcement about a year ago. And it's a video and it says, hey, Mom, Dad, your teens are at risk. Would you wait to talk to your kids about sex until after they're pregnant? Would you wait to talk to your kids about drugs till after they were in rehab? Would you wait to talk to your kids about alcohol until after they lost their license for drunk driving? Are you waiting to talk to your kid about suicide? I thought it was brilliant. Nothing, crickets. And then I got it. We're not having the talks about sex, drugs, and alcohol. And I'm expecting parents to have the talk about suicide? What was I thinking? We live in a very different day and age. Back in the day, there were public service announcements. Do you remember this is your brain? And they held up an egg, and then they cracked it and this is your brain on drugs. My favorite one was, oh, honey, nobody's saying sex is bad, but at 13, it will kill your dreams. 2 parents talking to a teen. And they worked back then because the whole family was gathered around one screen. So we all heard the same message. We could have a conversation about it. That's not happening today. We're not all gathered around one screen. And so while I thought I was brilliant, no. What was brilliant was the day that I decided to stop talking about how to stop suicide and started talking about how to bust through limited beliefs, how to permanently erase emotional trauma from the events of your past. That's when my badassery really started to make a difference, when I started talking about the results that people got from the classes we had created. And instead of advocates for living, we're just training people to be transformative coaches so that you can stand in the middle of a networking group so certain about the outcomes that your clients will get that you're willing to guarantee results. That sets you apart. And most coaches are not making a living. When I realized the number of coaches that were taking their own lives because even though they had great skills, they had zero ability to market themselves effectively. I decided that those are my peeps because that's who I am. I'm a woman entrepreneur. Even though I started out as an accidental entrepreneur, I am a woman entrepreneur. And the number of women entrepreneurs that are dying, whether they are dying because they're taking their own lives, or they're dying because of the stress, or they're dying because they give up on their dreams and take a corporate job. To me, it doesn't matter. They're dying. And I think that there's a cure. I think that the industry has an issue. And the issue has to do with this idea that you can't guarantee results. And with my private clients, I've been able to guarantee results for a decade. And I'm like, oh crap, what if I just taught other people the language of guaranteeing a result and then taught people how to do what I do? And that only came about, Marie, because my clients started asking me to teach them how to do what I do with them for other people. My badassery has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the people who are in my world who said, go first. And I'm like, okay.
Well, you went first willingly. You still took a leap off something that was scary. So that says a lot.
Well, you got that right. I have taken multiple leaps, and I will tell you that they say when you leap, the net will appear. I would add the word eventually.
Yes.
Because I felt like I was in free fall for a while.
Yes.
And eventually the net appeared and the systems came into place. And now I can speak with absolute certainty about what happened. But I recommend people look around you. Who are the people who will give you a soft place to land? And if you've got one person in your life who will give you a soft place to land, leap. I need you to leap.
I love that. So one thing that came to my mind when you were talking earlier is having these conversations. I think that parents, or probably parents, worry that by bringing up the conversation and having it, that then it's going to put something in their kid's mind. What would you say to them?
Welcome to my world. Welcome to my world. I call this myth, MYTH, Myth Island. I bought and sold myself 2 ideas. The first idea was that as long as my daughter Stephanie was getting professional help, we didn't need to talk about it. The second idea I sold myself on was that I could put the idea back in her head. They're both myths, but I didn't know it at the time. And most parents don't know it. And I'm just going to point out something that's totally obvious now and was totally invisible then. My daughter survived not 1 attempt, but 14 attempts. You would think at some point after the double digits kicked in, I would have figured out that the idea was in her head. Doesn't work that way, guys. We have a reticular activating system. By the way, all parents, this is your get out of guilt jail free card. We have the reticular activating system. It's like a filter, and it filters out over 90% of what's going on around us and allows in the less than 10% that aligns most closely with what we already believe. And as parents, we are hardwired to believe that our kids are okay. That's why we don't see the signs. And it's not our fault. And the most guilt-producing document I ever read was the list of warning signs on the Center for the Disease Control's website for suicide. Because I never went there until after my daughter attempted. And if you have a child who's attempted, don't go there. That list will not help you. That list is designed for interventionists. And parents, by definition, cannot intervene in something that we cannot see because our reticular activating system prevents us from seeing it. So this is your get out of guilt jail free. You're not going to see the signs. That's why we designed this so upstream, so proactive, so preventative that you don't have to wait for signs. You just ask them to help you practice your talk. Oh, and I cheated. Okay. Do you have children, Marie?
I don't.
Okay.
I had stepchildren, but
oh, there we go. So you know that when they're young If you ask them to help you with something, yeah, especially around the ages of 2 and 3, they go, oh, goody, I get to help. Well, even when they're teenagers, when we ask them, will you help me practice this? We're turning on the part of their brain that releases all of those feel-good chemicals. So the suicide proofing benefit of this talk starts the minute you ask them. And they almost always say yes, because it's not about them. All of a sudden, we've eliminated stigma. We've eliminated, oh, they're going to think I need to see somebody. Oh, they think there's something wrong with me. We took all of those conversations off the table with the way we do the invitation and the talk. And that's why it works.
So what age should parents start talking to their kids about this?
Whatever age your child is today is the right age. Oh, by the way, I don't mean that facetiously. Whatever age your child is today, I don't care if they're 13 or 30, they are the right age. A 3-year-old, if you ask them about do they know anything about teen suicide? You might get crickets. But I will tell you that the youngest suicide on record with the Center for Disease Control, meaning it's the youngest they can document that it was intentional, is 6 years old. Can you have this conversation too young? Nope.
Especially if there's something you can do to prevent it, you know?
The talk prevents it. You don't have to do anything. The questions actually do the heavy lifting. And if you want to be proactive on the positive side, here's what we realized. Marie, we realized, this was a brilliant flash of the obvious, okay? If I want to prevent suicide among 13-year-olds 10 years from now, all I have to do is start teaching emotional resilience and emotional intelligence to 3-year-olds today. So I partnered with UEQ. UEQ, YOU-EQ. UEQ has created card games that teach emotional intelligence to children of all ages. They started in boardrooms, and now they have card decks that teach emotional intelligence to 3-year-olds. These skills are out there. These tools are out there. The ability to change the world is out there. And I'm so grateful that you asked. Because while I'm a badass at standing in front of a room now and calling out people's limiting beliefs, I call them elephants, and I have my own herd. So I can speak with authority on what it takes to tame the elephant in the room. I've had amazing partners come to me. And one of them is the UEQ group that has the emotional intelligence card games. And the other is what I call Emotional Teflon. And emotionalteflon.com, anybody listening to this can go test drive this brilliant transformative technology that actually took vision boards and put them on steroids. So the messages get past the critical thinking brain and into the other than conscious mind. And in 3 minutes, it's been scientifically validated to improve mood and attitude for 6 to 8 hours. And because they partnered with the Teen Suicide Prevention Society, anybody who goes to emotionalteflon.com gets 2 free sessions that they will have forever and a 30-day all access pass where they can go in and play with all of these hundreds of sessions on success and health and wealth and wellness. And oh my God, I think they've got something for everyone in there. This is where I go before I give a talk, before I stood on the TEDx stage. What if you could flood your brain? What if you could brainwash yourself towards positive and cure the natural negative bias of your brain and our current culture and media? And so instead of letting media brainwash me, I go and watch amazing images. Here, I was doing it before we got together. Look at this.
Nice.
That's one of the images. And what happens when I hit play, and I'll just do that. Here we go. And I can play it at any speed. And at any speed, watching it for 3 minutes has been scientifically validated to improve my mood and attitude for 6 to 8 hours. By the way, mathematically speaking, that is a 12,000% return on my time investment.
Doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, really. And it was validated by Sean Aker's company. Sean Aker has not only the funniest TEDx talk of all time, but he is also the person who had he was the professor who had the most popular course at Harvard on happiness. He's a positive psychology guru. And his company validated the impact this has on the brain. So when they said they would partner with me, they partnered with me in my business. I created a session for them called Leaving Shouldville, how to stop shoulding on yourself, how to make peace with your past. And then they partnered with the Teen Suicide Prevention Society. So anybody who decides to play there, hey guys, get the annual, it's less than $200. And when you do that, 50% of that money goes straight to the mission to make suicide a thing of the past. So amazing partners have come into my world, Marie.
And what a great reason to do it. Not just for like your positive benefits for your health and your psychology and all that stuff, but then also because it's supporting a good cause.
It's like, I don't want to be easy to say yes to. I want to be impossible to say no to. That's my whole goal. And then that's what we do in my program is I help coaches and healers become impossible to say no to. What does that do for their business? All of a sudden, they're able to make a living with what they're brilliant at. And I struggled to make a living in my gifts because I bought into the limiting belief of the people who had trained me, who said that practitioners were only making this much money and only the teachers were succeeding. And I lived that for decades. I'm not willing to stand by and let anybody else who's a coach or a healer live that limiting belief. The reality is that when you become certain about the value you bring, about the impact you have, about the outcome people get from working with you, you'll never have to sell again. Because what people want more than anything else is not your process, they want your certainty.
Yes. OTB audience, listen to that. Make sure you heard that. They don't want your process, they want your certainty. And your certainty, your confidence, that's a huge part of life, but that's what we talk about in the Ordinary to Badass podcast is confidence. So that's huge.
The shift between confidence to certainty, it's such a little distance. But when you become so certain about the outcome people get from working with you that you are willing to guarantee it, your attitude changes. And when your attitude changes, your energy changes and your language changes. And people can feel it, they can hear it, and then they're going to want what you have. The most famous line of all time from When Harry Met Sally, I want what she's having. You want to show up as the person who is ecstatic about what you do. And the way that you show up where people want what you're having is to tame the elephant in the room. We call it the cure for imposter syndrome. Those limiting beliefs that tap into the old story that you wrote about your life at a time you don't even remember, about who you are, how the world works, and who you can be in the world. By the way, we make those decisions before we're 6 years old.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes. Mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean, come on, we didn't even have a whole brain. Part of our brain was missing.
Yeah.
And we've made the decisions that have impacted the rest of our lives. And now I'm on a mission to help people understand that Okay, I'm going to do it this way. Hey, Marie, have you ever worked somewhere and then decided not to work there? So you moved and started working somewhere else?
Yep.
Have you, and this is dicey, I know. Have you ever dated somebody and then decided not to date them anymore and started dating someone else?
Yep.
This is evidence that you know how to make a decision. What most people don't know is that their ability to make a decision can be used to change the belief systems that are running their lives. And that's what we do every week now. You know, we call it the emotional resilience formula or client results guaranteed. We give bunches of names because we just want to get it out into the world where people can come in for 1 hour for free. They can shift their belief system about who they can be in the world. That's what this is about. You want to know how to claim your badassery? You change the belief system about who you can be in the world. And I recommend that you do this by conscious choice instead of waiting for life to whack you upside the head or tap you on the shoulder like what happened to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I know that we're winding down here, but there's one question that I got to ask you because I know you talk about it and it seems so like opposites. Is what does the law of attraction have to do with suicide?
The law of attraction. The universe, your subconscious mind is elegantly designed to bring about what you think about. Hey, Marie, don't think about an elephant. What just happened?
Think about a big elephant.
When we have a suicidal thought and we're afraid of it and we don't talk about it, we try not to think about it. What happens when you try not to think about something, you're actually thinking about what you're trying not to think about, which means you're doubling down on the thought. And your subconscious mind is elegantly designed to bring about what you think about. So if you're thinking of a suicidal thought and you're struggling with it, and you're trying not to think about it, you're not talking it out where it can dissipate, now you've got the negative echo chamber and your subconscious mind goes to work and it looks for opportunities and starts making plans. And if you're a teenager without a prefrontal cortex that's fully developed, all it takes is opportunity to cross subconscious plan and they're gone. It's why we have to put jump nets on bridges here in the United States. Teenagers are waking up in emergency rooms going, I have no idea what happened. And they're telling the truth because they did not have a conscious plan. And these suicide intervention conversations that say, ask them if they have a plan, they're going to say, no, they don't have one because they don't have a conscious plan. But the law of attraction, bringing about what you think about, they have a subconscious plan. And this is the law of attraction in action that people don't like to talk about. I'm on a mission to put you back in the driver's seat so that you prime your brain towards positivity. Because if you don't, your natural negative bias can lead you down this path at any age.
So where can they find those 4 questions?
Teen Suicide Prevention Society.com.
Okay, awesome. So let's end with the tip for the woman who is in the arena fighting for the life that she wants.
Don't stop. If you are fighting for the life that you want, don't stop. You are worth it. Partner up, hang out with other people who are willing to break the silence on whatever their mission is. And take a minute and ask yourself, why do I want to be a badass? Why do I want to be visible? Because I'll tell you what, true leadership is not the person who says, follow me, follow me, follow me. True leadership is the person who says nothing and goes first. So whatever your big, hairy, scary first step is, just take it. Let this community that Marie has built support you. You're not alone. Just do it. And if you struggle with that, just know that it's just an elephant is just a limiting belief. It's just a decision you made at a time you don't even remember. What if you made a new decision? Try it.
So good. And how can we connect with you?
Well, the easiest way is at JackieSimmons.com. There you're going to see all the things that I'm up to, the master classes and the 6 weeks. And I just did a 3-hour workshop today. So everything is there. And so that's the easiest way. And please go to teensuicidepreventionsociety.com and watch the talk that saves lives. Comment on it. I promise I will reply.
I love that. So good. Jackie, you're a total badass, and I've enjoyed hearing your story.
Thank you, Marie.
And with that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there staying in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, own it and get after it.
Now that you've listened to this episode of Ordinary to Badass, we want to hear from you. Go to our website, ordinarytobadass.com/podcast, and submit your own experience on how you took your life from ordinary to badass and get the chance to be on a future spotlight episode of the show. That's ordinarytobadass.com/podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode of the show, wipe off the sweat, dust off the dirt, and get back in the arena.